I want to talk to you guys about the Chinese military. Now, for so many years, we have been hearing about how the Chinese are this rising threat. The great Chinese dragon is arising from the sea, the South China Sea in the Far East, and it is roaring, ready to engulf the entire world into its mouth, into its giant, gaping mouth. As if the film Mulan is incarnating itself into reality, and the sword of Mulan is about to be unsheathed and about to strike NATO and the United States. And pretty soon, Chinese troops are going to be storming the beaches of Manhattan. Yes, everyone. This is the great Chinese threat. A rising China, as so many headlines put it. Rising China. So today, I decided to spend some hours to actually read up on the Chinese military, specifically on the Chinese Air Force. Now, the Chinese have a number of different types of fighter jets that they are very proud of. The thing is that these fighter jets are based off of the designs of other fighter jets in different countries, such as Russia, Israel, and especially the United States. The problem with mimicking the technologies of others is that you're not going to get the full system of the original. You're not going to get the full package. You're not going to get the full package. It's like that meme. You know, Mom, can we have hamburgers? No, we have hamburgers at home. And the mom is putting a half-cooked beef patty between two pieces of Wonder Bread or something crazy like that. You're not going to get the full system. So the Chinese, they don't have the full efficient system that the United States has. Plus, the Chinese don't have the experience, the many decades of military experience that the United States has. And so because they don't have the experience, because they don't have the full technological apparatus that the United States has, they are lacking both in military strategy and also in the technological department. And when you try to copy the technology of others, you don't get the full components. And the reason for this is very simple. The reason why you don't get the full system is for the same reason why you're copying the technology of others. You don't have the means to make the full system. You don't have the means to actually make the complete, compatible, efficient system that you want. That's why you're copying others. If you had the complete system, if you had the means to actually make serious military technology, you wouldn't be copying others. Okay, so there is a jet that the Chinese are very proud of. It's called the J-20. Now, the Chinese have been working on this whole plan of having their own air defense technological apparatus independent of Russia for decades, because for a very long time, the Chinese have been dependent on the Russians for air defense technology, kind of like how the Armenians get their fighter jets from Russia. So the Chinese, for a long time, have been wanting to independently produce air defense technology, fighter jets and the like. So they have this fighter jet called the J-20. Now, the J-20 runs on an engine, currently runs on an engine called it's called the WS-10C. Now, the Chinese just a few weeks ago recently showed off a J-20 fighter jet running off of the WS-10C engine. The reason why this fighter jet was running on the WS-10C engine is because the engine that the Chinese were hoping to use, the WS-15, is still not efficient. It still lacks the oomph that the Chinese want. Now, in 2018, the South China Morning Post published an article about how the J-20 was lacking thrust. Seriously lacking thrust. Thrust meaning power. It lacks power. And if the fighter jet cannot have that thrust, that strong movement that a jet needs, it's not going to be ready for war. And there are actually Chinese defense analysts who have admitted this. In fact, in 2015, there was actually an engine that blew up in the middle of some kind of engineering operation or something like that. An engine blew up. So the Chinese still are lacking in an efficient engine system for this jet. Now, one of the reasons as to why this image of China is being so blown up is because of American propaganda. Now, part of it is also Chinese propaganda. The Chinese are boosting up themselves, boosting up their own image. But the Americans have also been greatly responsible for hyping up this image of a dangerous China. Now, if the Americans know that the Chinese are lacking in their own military capabilities, then why are they hyping China up? Well, why did America hype up Saddam Hussein's military? America was hyping up Saddam Hussein's military. America was the reason why people thought that Saddam Hussein had this badass military when Saddam Hussein actually had a very terrible military, one of the worst militaries in history. Really, one of the worst militaries in history was Saddam Hussein's military. Middle Eastern people usually suck at warfare, especially now. And Saddam Hussein was an example of this reality. And when the Iraq War happened, Saddam Hussein fell in no time. The American military steamrolled right over the Iraqi military, even though the Americans were just hyping up, blowing up the Iraqi military. When the truth truly was that the Iraqi military was garbage. Why did the Americans blow up Iraq's image? Very simple, to instill fear in the American people so that we can make this big boogeyman called Iraq and people wouldn't feel so bad about going to war against Iraq. Now, I'm not saying that America is going to go to war against China. It's not going to happen. America's not going to go to war against China. That's another thing that I want to address. For so many years, people have been talking about, a war with the Chinese. America is not going to go to war against China. America has no reason to go to war against China. America makes a lot of money with the Chinese. And secondly, America has been exhausted enough by the Iraq and Afghan wars that it has no business in getting involved in a war with any other country, let alone China. Imagine, if Iraq and Afghanistan were enough to just exhaust the United States, China would be an utter nightmare. Because, imagine trying to have boots on the ground in the middle of China. It's like one of the biggest countries in the world. So a war with the Chinese is completely pointless, and it just wouldn't have a good outcome. It would just drain the United States tremendously. The Americans are using the Japanese as a proxy against the Chinese. And the United States is completely allowing Japan to reverse the status quo that was established through the Second World War. Japan is not allowed to have a military. Japan is not allowed to be involved in war. And what are the Japanese currently doing? Expanding their military capabilities, and they are changing their constitution, which was something that was established by the United States, to enable the Japanese to participate in war. And the Americans are worried about this rising China, but they don't want to be involved in war. Americans are exhausted by war. Americans want nothing to do with war. So the Americans are going to rely on the Japanese. And this gives the green light to the Japanese to revive their military strength. America blew up the image of Saddam to help justify a war in Iraq. And today, America is blowing up the image, hyping up the image of China, and that justifies America enabling the revival of Japanese militarism. So, we are entering a dangerous time. Anyway, you guys just heard some theology. God bless.